for being part of the foundation, and thanks for riding the roller coaster. So we're talking about riding the roller coaster or riding a scooter because that's what you're doing when you are a long-term investor. Now, there's a difference between being an investor and a speculator. A speculator, somebody's riding the big roller coaster, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But some of you are saying, hey, that's too much craziness. I don't want to do that much. I would rather be in a scooter. And this is a picture of my parents and my wife's parents. I was part of a big, big event in Orlando, and my parents and in-laws came down, and I was so tired afterwards that I says, I'm renting a scooter. We rented 6 scooters and spent the day driving this thing all over the place. So riding the roller coaster or riding a scooter. And the next question is, do you lose money when your stock goes down in value? Okay, because you guys are riding the coaster, but I want you to understand how we're doing this. Do you lose money when your stock goes down in value? And there's 4 ways to invest in the stock market, and we want you to avoid one of them for sure, and maybe two of them. Okay, so avoid one of them and maybe two of them. So that's one of the questions a lot of people are asking. Hey, the stock market's going up, the stock market's going down. Did I lose money? Well, you only lose when you sell. Now, the value of your house might go up, might go down, but did you sell it? No. Warren Buffett loves crisis. He loves it when stuff goes down because he wants to buy more of it. He's got these wonderful businesses, and there's hundreds and hundreds of businesses that Berkshire Hathaway controls or is part of. And he doesn't mind it. He likes it because that's when he can find bargains. But I want to just take you to the screen and just give you an example of what I'm talking about. So when you are investing, the biggest thing I want you to think about is a law called the law of supply and demand. This is a biggie, guys. It is a law, and it's a law for a reason because it is the law of supply and demand. Now, how does it work? If you have, I don't care what it is, it could be pencils, it could be apples, it could be houses. But if you have this many of them and a lot of people want to buy it, everybody wants to buy apples, everybody wants to buy cars. So now everybody's chasing it. What happens to the price? The price goes up. Now, what happens when uh, there's an awful lot of supply and people don't want to buy it anymore? Guess what happens? It's going to go down. So if everybody wants to buy, it's going up. If everybody wants to sell, it goes down. Everybody wants to buy, everyone wants to sell. Now, what are they selling? What are they doing with it? Well, they're moving money. So there's all kinds of ways that you can invest. You can be in cash. You can be in stock. You can be in crypto. You can be in real estate. And everybody has a certain amount of dollars. And what are they doing with that money? If they're putting a lot of that money into stock and putting a lot of money into the stock price is going up. If they're taking the money out, yeah, I don't want to do that one. We want to take the money out and we're going back to stock or to cash. Guess what happens to the price? Price is going in the other direction. When crypto is really hot, people are saying, "Hey, I want to get out of my stock. It's not doing very well. We're gonna all go over here. Everybody's running over here." What happens to the price of stock or the crypto? Well, it's going up. And then something happens. Oh, I don't want to go there. So everybody's sending their money back to cash, or they're going back over to stock, or they're putting money into real estate. When interest rates were really low, there was a huge demand because now a lot of people could buy it. So the demand was high. Demand was high, and the supply was low. So what happens to the price? It goes up, goes up, goes up, goes up. You've got a lot of people buying it. A lot of people want to buy it because they can qualify for it. When interest rates were 3%, a lot of people could buy it. So the demand was high. Demand goes up, demand goes up. But now the interest rates have gone up to 6 and to 7%. So guess what? Demand now, now there's a lot of people who can't afford it. So the demand goes down. Demand is going down. Demand is going down. So what happens to the price? Price goes down as well. So this is a law. It's called the law of supply and demand. So the big thing that people get into is they're saying, well, the stock market went down in value. So here's another big thing about the stock. And again, as we talk about the 7 steps and the 7 habits, well, number 4 is to automatically invest. And there's 4 ways to invest, and there's a reason for this. Number 1, you can pick and choose. You can pick and choose, and you can do that, and it's fun. Um, and you can have fun to it. But guess what? You lose. You lose when you do that. Number 2, you can hire somebody. You can hire a mutual fund. And you're going to pay them to pick and choose. And they're going to charge you between 1 and 2%. There might be some a little bit less than that, but there's a fee. There's a fee to do that. And number 3 is the S&P 500, the 500 biggest companies in America. And then there's number 4, which is my favorite, is Berkshire Hathaway. Which is BRK is the sign, but it's a stock. It's a stock, but it started out as as an insurance company. It started out as a textile mill, and then they sold all that off and started buying and getting into the insurance business. So over time, one of the reasons that you pick and choose is you buy at the wrong time, you sell at the wrong time, and it takes your time. That's why we don't recommend you pick and choose. Now, you can take a little bit of your money and go do that. But most of the time, you shouldn't pick and choose. And I've done this 3 major times. One time we were buying, probably $10 million worth of stock back and forth and stuff like that. And by the time I was done, I would have been better off if I would have gone to the beach and just put the money here or put the money there. I would have done better if I just would have done that. Now, the problem with this one is there's a fee when you hire somebody. If you just buy the S&P, well, it's a lot less. It's a much smaller percent, like 0.5%. And there's no fee. There's no money under management. There's a small commission when you buy it, but there's no money under management. So if all of these did the same rate of return, let's say that they made, just for easy illustration, they made 6%. Well, this one's going to have 2% taken off of it, so you only made 4%. This one's going to be 5.5%, and this is still going to be 6% because there's no money under management. And again, you probably will never see that number. You got to dig into the report to see that when you hire a mutual fund. Now, there's nothing wrong with mutual funds. I'm just saying for the passive guy in step number 4, which is automatically invest. And so for automatically invest, what we really want you to do is concentrate in the S&P 500 and Berkshire. Now, you can do whatever you want because right step on that is with loan versus own. And it's really asset allocation. So if you have 100 of something, we're just going to use 100, you're going to put some into the loan side, which is a bond. This is a loan. You can loan money to the state. You can loan money to the government. You can loan money to businesses. You can loan money to build schools. And that is the scooter. It's straight. Let's say you're going to get a 5% rate of return. It's straight. So if you put in 100 and it goes up 5%, you put in, just for easy illustration, and you get a 5%. That means at the end of the year, you got $105. And there's no up and downs. It's just a straight line. That's the scooter, and it's going to get you there. Now, the own side of it, there's all kinds of things you can own, but for step 4, we're just going to talk about the stock market because that's easy to be able to get into. Now, the challenge that people get into is if you buy one stock, you just bought one stock, it's a roller coaster. And we call this 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Okay, so over time, it's going to go up. And this is what's happened traditionally. Now, people say, well, why is that? Well, part of it is because the governments can't balance their budgets. And so they just keep printing more money. And they keep borrowing money, so everything is inflation. So if you own stuff, we appreciate it. But if you don't own stuff, then it's inflation. So that's why it's so important to be able to own things that go up in value. Now, if you own one stock, it's more of a roller coaster. And the analogy of this is Disneyland, Space Mountain. It's dark, there's lots of music going on, people are doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and you can't see where the track's going, and it's a thrill ride. Well, when I was a kid, I liked thrill rides, and that was fun. My kids, my grandkids just love that. I'm not getting on to it with a 10-foot pole. You're going to see me in a scooter. I've had two back surgeries. I've been there, done that. But if you just buy one stock, that's the way it is. And the problem is that if you get in and you get the wrong time and it goes down and then you sell, you've lost, and then you're just out. You're just out. You are speculating. And we don't speculate. We are investors. We are investors. So the difference is that if you own 30 companies, which we don't really recommend, that's the Dow, and that's one company, that's one computer company, one car company, one software company, and so forth. There's 30 of them, but we really like the top 500. Now, the great thing about that is you have 500 of them. There's some of them that might be going up. There might be some of them going down, but there's a whole bunch of them that are just kind of really smooth. So you don't have that hero to zero. You don't have that big roller coaster because it's a lot more stable. But remember, supply and demand, supply and demand. If a lot of people take their money out, they get scared, they go put it into cash or whatever, then what's happening to the supply and demand? It's back here to this crazy supply and demand thing. Where's the money going? Where's the money going? And you follow the money. You basically follow the money of where it's going. Okay, so the big part is that we are investors. We are investors. And we're looking at long term. Okay, so the only thing I'm really interested in is the number of shares that you have. That's more important than anything. The goal is to accumulate shares. So I'm just telling you what we go with Buffett. When if you had $100 and the shares were trading at $10, that means you can get 10 shares. Okay. Now, if you had that same $100 and the shares are trading at $5, well, you can get 20 shares. So if the stock market actually goes down and you still have $100, this is dollar cost averaging. So every month you're buying and the stock loses some of its value, well, guess what? You were able to buy more shares. The only question is, when do you sell? Now, if you got to sell next week, if you're going to sell in 6 months, if you're going to sell in 90 days or something like that, then put more money into the loan side. But if you're a 5-year investor, 10-year investor, whatever it is, we're excited about this when the biggest companies have gone down in value because we can buy more shares. The only thing I'm really interested in is, where is it going to be in 5 to 10 years from now? That's the question. And the ability to predict the market. So I can't predict in the short term. Can't do it. Warren Buffett can't do it. Nobody can do it. They can't predict in the short term. And that's what picking and choosing is. You're buying and selling very quickly. You're trying to predict the market. But over time, we can predict the market. We can predict the market. And that is a big part of what we're talking about, is the ability to predict the market. Now, one of the big reasons is inflation. When I was a kid, mowing lawns, gas was 25 cents a gallon. Well, now it's $4 a gallon. It's 15 times itself. When my wife and I got married, our first house was 40 grand. Now it's 400,000. And then when my kids get to be my age, it'll be 4 million. So inflation is where governments can't pay their bills, so they print more money. So the flip side to inflation is appreciation. What's the difference? This one is you're the owner and you're happy. And this one is the payer. This is the person that's paying it. You're paying for groceries, you're paying for gas, you're paying for rent. And the problem with that one is inflation is hurting you. That's why we have to get in and start buying things that go up in value. What will go up in value over time? Real estate does. Now, in the short term, can it be a roller coaster? Sure. But when stuff's going down and we can get a better price on it, I'm pretty excited. I only want to know where it's going to be in 10 years from now, 10 or 20 years from now. That's all I'm interested in. So we appreciate it. Stocks, for the most part, not one or two, but if you do the 500 biggest or Berkshire, those are the two that we want to look at. Okay. So those are kind of the big pieces of where we're headed. Now, over time, Berkshire, the S&P 500 and Berkshire, over 65 years, over my lifetime, 65 years, Berkshire's done 19%, and the S&P's done about 12%. Over the last 25 years, Berkshire's at about 12%. As this thing has got bigger, it's harder to get that big a return. And the S&P is below that, but not by much, 10 to 11%. This is just some ones that I remember. But over the last 16 years, the S&P has probably done a little bit better. It's probably done 12%, and Berkshire's probably done 10, something like that. So they've changed a little bit, mostly because the S&P is so high tech weighted, and the high tech has done really well. But the rule of 72 says if you can get a 12% rate of return, 12 times 6 equals 72. That's how long it takes to double your money. If you're getting a 6% rate of return, it takes 12 years. What I'm interested in is where it's going to be in the future. So if you see the stock market going down, again, don't be freaking out about it. It's the number of shares that you've got. And when you talk about loan versus own, you talk about your asset allocation, which is right back here. Well, I'll just draw it again for you. The asset allocation, it's okay. Let's say we're going to take that same 100. And again, this is what you're going to do. Some of it's going to be a loan, and some of it's going to be own. And of this one, depending on your age, if you're young, and again, I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm going to give you some ideas of what I would do with my money. But on the own, if I'm young, there's the 4 ways to invest. I'm going to put a lot of it into Berkshire. I'm going to put a lot of it into S&P. And you know what? And let's say that just for fun, we're going to use 80% of our money here because I'm young and only 20% here. Okay. So 80%'s there. So if you want to have some fun, take 10% of it and put it to pick and choose. It's okay to pick and choose. There's big companies that I was introduced to years ago that I kicked myself for not doing it. Apple, Costco, a lot of these that I knew of, and I knew they had a great program, and I just didn't pull the trigger. Microsoft, all that stuff. That was stuff that was around when the Macs first came out. So take 10% of it there. Take maybe of the 80%, probably take 30% here, take 30% there, and take the last 10% and put it in a mutual fund if you want. And then you kind of diversified between there. There's nothing wrong with that. And then when you're smarter than the 500 biggest companies, take that to 10% and move this one up to 40%. 30, 40, let's see, 40, 50, 60, that's 90. So I got to do 30% right there. So it's okay to pick and choose, but don't start there. Start where it's going to be stable. Start where it's going to be stable. And the reason we like Berkshire so much is it's got a lot of cash right now. It's, he sold a lot of stuff and he's sitting on cash. He's waiting for a crash. He wants a crash because that equals buying companies and buying stock at a discount. And he knows what the price is and he knows what the value of those companies are. Anyway, so that's the big thing on your picking and choosing, guys. If you're going to pick and choose, it's okay to do a little bit of pick and choose and have some fun with it. But don't bet the farm. It's like going to Vegas and you get on the roulette and all the money you've got in the world is, 100, whatever it is. And you put it all on number 16. Well, that's gambling. We don't gamble. We don't even play roulette. We invest in all of the casinos because the casinos over time are going to win. So that's our big thing right there. Thanks for watching, everybody.